Can I ask, when did you do these interviews?
Early 80s.
Early 80s?
Yes. And I was...
They were all still alive. And,
yeah, well that's it, I went for the oldest first.
Yeah.
It was slightly necessary, you know, where the BBC bought the RKO pictures, because they were, as we were saying, Howard Hughes sold it to television. So they bought them for, I think, a 5-year license, which meant we could have clips as long as we wanted without paying a fortune.
But I mean, vaguely interesting, well, interesting to us anyway, that gosh, we can really do a portrait of a studio, and had that really been done before? And one of the reasons that was congenial to us was that you may know that the BBC owned Ealing Studios then. It owned where the Ealing comedies and things were made, and it owned Lime Grove Studios where a lot of Hitchcock films were made. And we were sort of familiar with film studios, and film studios had heads, and it had editing blocks, and it had sort of lower orders people, and you went to the head man's office and all that sort of thing. So all that stuff, when Katharine Hepburn goes to see the chief man and there's a script on the table, was very familiar to us, because it was exactly what the head of our department's office was like, and it might, you know, that might well happen in our world.
And what was the remnants of the RKO studio was a small hut and an enormous warehouse. And the warehouse was before everything was on the computer, so it was full of files and rather attractive young chaps going up and down and keeping the whole place absolutely up to date, and a very camp man who ran it, a very nice man called John Hall. And Vernon Harbin, who joined the company in 1933, and he was, as it were, he used to do fake Richard Dix autographs on photographs of Richard Dix, because film stars didn't bother to reply to people, so he used to fake them. And Kay, the lady who, an older lady with a Remington typewriter, and that was the little bunch. So this was ad-lib, because we had the license on the movies. So they had the idea to do a program about the studios. They had their output. And so I was...
So it's a reverse engineered in a way. It's happening like they say the button and the suit. That you've got the button and let's make the suit. So we've got the clips. Now we've got to make the programs. But I would have to say, from my end of things, that they say, well, now go and get those stars. Now you probably all have got a feeling of Graham Norton and all these stars being so much fun and effervescent and amusing. Stars do not appear unless they're selling something. That's work to stars. So we had the clips, so let's make a thing about the RKO studios. Now get the stars.
For Fred Astaire, for example, he never did interviews, and they said he won't do. So anyway, I wrote to him, and we were sitting in the office and thinking, well, what's going to happen about anybody? The phone rang, and Kay at the typewriter said, "Oh, it's Fred Astaire," and fainted. So anyway, I got the phone and I said, "Oh yeah, Mr. Astaire," and thinking, "Oh my God, my heart." I mean, in the early 80s, and he said, "Oh, Miss Wilton, thank you very much for your invitation, but I never do interviews. I'm not interested in it." And I said, "Oh well, it would be such a pity because, you know, we're anyway, flam." So he said, "Well, you know, I used to, you know, everyone's always asking me to do things." He said, "I never do them." He said, "The royal family just got in touch with me, and I said no to them. Your royal family." So I said, "Oh well, I'm sorry about that." Anyway, so he said, "Well, I'll think about it and ring you, but I think the answer's going to be definitely no." Very charming on the phone, by the way, but still. So he hung up. So I thought, oh God, now what do I do? So then I thought, I know, I'll send him some flowers. The next afternoon at the same time, I'm sitting in the office, and of course he rings through again. Kay goes out like a light. He's too excited. And he said, "Oh, Miss Wilton, just to say that the answer is definitely no. I don't want to have anything, you know, I don't do interviews. I'm not, it's all over it. I don't want to do interviews." So I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and went on a bit, and he said to me, "By the way, did you send me that beautiful bouquet of flowers?" I said, "Well, yes, it came from me, and whole of the royal family, had they but known we were in touch. So he laughed, he said, I'll do it. But they were all sort of, anyway, you know this, Tristram, because when I was there, I was at this hotel, and Tristram came over one of the times, because I was going backwards and forwards, and you were just going to do the Hollywood, you were Hitchcock, or you were going to do
Hollywood Black.
Yeah,
Hollywood Blacklist.
yes. And I saw Tristram in the hall, and I said, oh, Tristram, and he said, yes, I just arrived. So I've got to make the phone calls. That was the thing. You then had to start,
Make the phone calls.
yes,
Yeah.
stretching out and trying to get people.
Well, I didn't have any stars. It was not a starry. They weren't starry interviews. But when I got back to the hotel each evening, they say, "Hi, Trist, do you get any biggies today?"
We didn't want to have any critics, really. We wanted it to be just the people. And as you say, the people were hopefully still alive. But we tried to make it, and we didn't have... Sometimes our stuff had been criticised for being not strong enough on the critical side. You know, what's your critical perspective? Or we thought, we'll do the people who were really there, didn't we? That's what we wanted to do. But there's a rather interesting piece. It just occurred to me that when Rose is battling with Robert Mitchum, the big critical thing in those days was called the auteur theory, that films had their own character because of the author of the film who was the director. That's the French people thought this up. And when you see Rose is saying, could you choose the directors of your films? And he says, doesn't make any difference. And Rose is astonished, and she says, you don't think it makes any difference? Still doesn't. And then he says, you don't think the director makes a picture? So this is a rather marvellous auteurist interchange between this utterly frightening man and our gallant interviewer here. But theoretically speaking, what was coming in was the industrial perspective on film, that you think of filmmaking as an industry, which was congenial to us because we were in a television industry which was rather like it. But we were able to do that, and the little bits of the archive that you saw were real things in the archives, saying, for example, how much people got paid. I mean, one of the reasons why Ginger is palpably resentful about the whole thing still is that she always got less money. She got less money, and there it was in black and white in the archives, and that was all rather fascinating, actually.
And then we were going to do Jane Russell. Well, we were late with Robert Mitchum. I did the interview with Robert Mitchum, and Jane Russell turned out to live just round the corner. Well, I mean, in those terms, miles away, but I mean, sort of a neighbour. So she arrived and had to wait. So anyway, I finished with Robert Mitchum with some sort of, anyway, and then there she was, and she said, oh, my husband wants to speak to you. So they had a house like the house in Dallas, all on one level. This is Robert Mitchum's house. So at the beginning, I had to go and call her. Going, Miss Russell. Anyway, she, as I say, she came out. She said, oh, your husband wants to speak to you. So I lifted the phone, and the husband said, you kept my wife waiting. I double the money, double the money. So I said, oh, I'm terribly sorry, but So he said, yeah, double the money, double the money. So anyway, I hung up. And then I said to Robert Mitchum, do you think we could move inside? Well, he said, no, because a German film crew some years back had filmed inside his sitting room and they'd torn his carpet. That's why he went. So I said, well, he said, well, okay, you can do Jane. So then Jane came out, she said, my husband wants to speak to you. So I had the phone, he said, listen, you kept my wife waiting and double the money. I said, double the money. I said, yes, well, we're just going to start, because I had to negotiate the moving from the garden into the, it's going to be odd, both in the same type of garden. So then we moved into the sitting room and did her there. But, these things aren't...
Did you double the money?
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you very much.
Yes.